in the Toastmaster leadership. Many years ago, he was the
Next time, we'll put the camera on.
in the top 3 in
Where this is
District
in the back.
52.
This is so you can raise
Is
the
now
camera.
taking that
It's always
same
flat
path
this way.
in our
So you don't
district,
have to
District
adjust that,
33,
but you
but
adjust
also
up and down the
has
button.
been
So the hammer should be out the
involved,
back.
served in the program management leadership for major defense contractors like General Dynamics.
Occasionally adjusted.
Thank you.
Another day, another challenge, so the story goes. As we move through the pathways of our life, we may encounter conflict from time to time. Maybe you are a participant, or perhaps an observer. Do you personally have the skills, tools, and methods to effectively cope with conflict? Our next speaker is presenting an executive summary for our club for his 1-hour presentation on conflict resolution coming up this coming week. We will briefly consider situations at home, at work, in the community, and in the world as we formulate the strategies that may be helpful for you to know and utilize. Today, our speaker will focus on Conflict Communication Manual Project 4, How to Say It, with a 10 to 12 minute speech entitled Conflicting Remarks. Conflicting Remarks. Please help me welcome distinguished Toastmaster for the second time, Wayne Sebera.
Conflict. Who's been in a conflict here? Today? No, not today. It's interesting. Conflict is something that's a fact of life. It's something that we in our human condition have to deal with. Conflict is all about communication. For Toastmasters, it's essential to understand the world of conflict. Tonight I'm going to share with you some ideas, some strategies, some techniques that will help you better understand how conflicts occur, why they occur, and what your response to them might be. That's perhaps the most important thing. Whether you're in a conflict one-on-one with another person, or whether you're an observer, observing two people in conflict, it's important that you have the awareness and the ability to see what's going on. You have to be able to penetrate past the things that are present. Get down to the essence of it. What's causing this conflict? Where is it coming from? What is the source? We look at conflict in the areas of personal relationships. In fact, I have to tell you, my wife Andrea and I have conflicts from time to time. Matter of fact, we used to have a lot of conflicts early in our marriage, and you know what, Matt? The reason we had conflicts? When I speak, I have a rather loud, powerful voice. And every time I said something to her, she'd say, "Why are you yelling at me?" Well, I'm not yelling, I'm just speaking in my normal tone of voice. But guess what, Warren, you know what's happened over the years? We've solved this conflict. You know how? She's getting a little hard of hearing. And now she's saying, "I can't hear you, speak a little louder." But when I speak loud to her now, I feel so guilty. I'm just feeling guilty because I was trained for years and years, do not yell, be very soft-spoken. And now I have to speak loudly so she'll hear me. It happened only this morning. She asked me something and I answered and she didn't hear me. She asked me again and I yelled. And I said, "Oh, I feel so bad when I yell," because it's ingrained. You see, habits form about the way we deal with conflict. Whether we grew up in a situation with siblings or family or maybe even neighborhood that led to certain types of conflicts, we develop patterns. How we respond and how we react to a conflict. Tonight I'm going to talk about several different ways of looking at that. The four pillars of our existence deal with our physical, our mental, our emotional, and our spiritual selves. Conflict can occur in any of those four domains. Physically, we see kids at school getting into some fisticuffs. They're fighting over territory, they're fighting over a possession. Maybe Matt and I were going to fight over this piece of cornbread, but we didn't. We resolved it ahead of time. But a lot of the conflicts come from the mental and the emotional, don't they? Have you noticed on television a lot of the conflicts that you hear about are really emotional conflicts, where people decide, this is how I feel about it, and this is my position, and I'm defending this position no matter what I hear. I don't care what the facts are, I don't care what the issues are, I don't care what the explanations are. I made up my mind. Did you ever see that? Did you see that? Meanwhile, what do we have on the other side? The person on the other side, oh yeah? Well, let me tell you about my position. I feel that you're an idiot. And immediately the conflict begins to escalate, doesn't it? It starts out, we have a nominal disagreement. It could be very minor, but then there's this phenomenon that sometimes is referred to as kitchen sinking it. Kitchen sink is where you throw everything. Oh yeah, I remember last week you did this, and I'm still mad about that. Well, is that right? Last year, let me tell you what you did. And so you see the conflict begins to escalate. What does that mean to you? What's in it for you to know this fact? As you are more aware of what the conflict is about, you have the opportunity to discern, to be non-judgmental, to be more rational in your approach, to maybe distance or detach yourself from what's going on. What happens when you're in the middle of a big conflict, which you're emotionally tied up into, and suddenly you realize, if I can emotionally detach myself from this, we may have a solution. In the corporate world, we see it a lot. I was a vice president in 2 large corporations, and part of my job on a daily basis was resolving conflicts and issues. When I worked for Ford Motor Company, I had a department manager in Colorado Springs and another department manager in England, and they were ready to kill each other. They could not agree on anything. They were fighting all the time. If one person said it's white, the other person would say it's black. It didn't matter what the subject was, they were just committed to disagree. I realized this was not healthy for my organization, of course. What I did was schedule a meeting. I said, we're the 3 of us coming together for the day, and we're not leaving the room until we had an agreement. We scheduled a meeting room. Person from England flew in, the person from Colorado flew in, and I sat there from 8 o'clock in the morning. And we said, let us understand what are these issues. What are the issues? First of all, let's gather some data. What are the data that you're seeing that's causing a conflict? And from the data, I can discern some information. I can now begin to make some conclusions, gathering information. And from that, I build a story or a set of facts. Sometimes the facts have to be challenged. Sometimes they have to be negotiated and debated. And as we began to unfold this, we applied some of Stephen Covey's 7 habits for highly effective people. Seek first to understand, and then be understood. Seek first to understand. What is this person trying to tell me? Why are they on their position that's so different than mine? Maybe I don't understand what they're really saying. I've observed arguments and decisions among people where it wasn't until they realized they were both arguing about the same thing that they realized they weren't really different at all. Just verbs, nouns, language, stories that cause the separation. Seek first to understand and then be understood gave us the clue later in the day when we said, Bill, I want you now to tell me what John's position is on this subject. And we change roles. Grace, you're familiar with role-playing from your psychology PhD. Role-playing is all about putting yourself in a position that's different from your actual humanity. I'm going to be a role-play for the person that I'm opposing. And when I do that, I have to argue, what is it that are facts of the situation? What is it I like? What is it I don't like? And I think a bottom line is, what do you want? What do you want? If I can ask in a conflict, what do you want? And get a clear answer, it begins to shred away the confusion and clarify what it is we're focused on. After Bill and John did several iterations of exchanging roles and talking about, this is what I think the issues are, and this is what I think I want, and this is why I see the problems, pretty soon they began to realize they both had similar objectives. They were much more in agreement than they were in dissension. But until that conversation took place, the dissension had dominated. Do you see some of that happening in today's political scene? Do you see that happening in some of the television narratives where I turn on a television channel, I see a video with some activity, and then I hear the comments, blah, 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 blah. Then I flip the channel. It's the same video, exactly the same video. And what do I hear on that channel? Not blah, not blah, not blah, not blah. They're coming from two different perspectives, explaining the same facts with different information, and therefore creating this conflict and dissension. We see this in Toastmasters too. Why do we plan a Toastmasters meeting with an agenda? It's Covey's first principle, be proactive. And the second principle, plan with the end in mind. When I come to a meeting and the agenda has been planned out and the coordination's taken place, I know who's speaking, who's evaluating, who's doing what. I can now take that information and we have a very smoothly running meeting. Of course, we've all been in a situation where we show up. Oh, who's speaking tonight? Does anybody want to talk? How does that change the tenor, the professionalism, the appearance, the enjoyment of the evening? Be proactive, begin with the end in mind. These are principles to help resolve conflicts in a proactive way. You see, conflicts can be resolved through intervention. For example, people may have conflicts within themselves. People with alcoholic problems, drug-induced problems, they have an internal conflict. And to resolve it may take some sort of an intervention. It may take an interrogation, it may take an arbitration, it may take a mediation, it may take a litigation. But what it really is missing is the explanation. What really happened? My advice to you as an observer is to become more aware when you see a conflict, feel a conflict, or participate in one. Become aware. What are the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual aspects of this? What are the facts? Am I putting up barriers and taking my positions, or am I open to a solution? You see, these are the tools that we can use to help advance our solutions. These simple principles apply whether it's in a personal relationship, or a business relationship, or a community relationship, or even on the world stage. When we put together being who we are and realizing I am one with each of you, there are aspects of us that are connected so deeply. We really are connected. That becomes then the message that resolves the conflicts. Mr. Toastmaster.